Oh my God. Can y'all believe that she said this during her opening statement?
What malice have I ever shown to anyone? What benefit would I gain? I am a person who loves all people and has no malice towards anyone.
Hey everyone, good morning. It is Thursday today. Lori Vallow's opening statements are going to start today, and we have Trina Kay, who is the prosecutor on the previous trial that we watched together. That was the murder of Charles Vallow, which Lori was found guilty for, and we haven't had her sentencing for that one yet because I believe she opted to combine the sentencing together if she were to be found guilty for this trial. This was a conspiracy to commit murder of Brandon Boudreaux. Brandon Boudreaux is still alive and well, thank God, unlike the other victims of Lori Vallow. But she's in court today, and she apparently jury selection was delayed because she showed up sick and she was crying. She's like wheeled in a wheelchair. There's a whole thing about it. There's all this drama, and honestly, I listened to it this morning. It did sound like she could have been sick because she did have that very nasally feeling. But then she starts crying and she's like, "Judge, what if I can't make it on Wednesday and everyone's waiting on me? Blah 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 blah." And Judge is like, "Well, I'm still gonna haul you to come in, so I'll give you today to rest, tomorrow to rest, and then we'll bring you back in on Wednesday. That's when they finish jury selection." So I heard that apparently there was 4 alternates, but now I think they're down to 2 alternates. There's another alternate that was dismissed because apparently when they were driving back yesterday, they started having the chills. They weren't feeling well. So that alternate has been dismissed, and we're down to 2 alternates at the moment. But I'm assuming this is going to be a pretty short trial like the other Arizona one, so it's not going to be 4 to 6 weeks, because if I was a jury in a 4 to 6 week long trial, oh my God. Just in time to watch.
Jeep Wrangler. The Texas license plate, no rear tire, and dark tint was parked right up next to Brandon Boudreaux's driveway, idle. At 9:13 a.m. on October 2nd of 2019, Brandon Boudreaux returned home. That Jeep had been idling there already for over an hour. When Brandon turned onto his street, he immediately noticed this Jeep because it was parked so close to his driveway. The back of the Jeep was facing towards him, and he immediately also noticed that there was no rear tire. He saw a Texas plate on the Jeep. And then he saw that back window of the Jeep open up, a rifle barrel come out and point at him. And then bang! He heard a shot and his window shattered right next to him. Brandon hit the accelerator and he took off. He turned the corner and drove a block or so away and stopped, calling 911. He talked to the operator and told them where this Jeep was going. As Brandon was speaking with the 911 operator, he had no idea that that bullet had struck his car just a few inches from his head.
Jeez. 1 in chat, if you guys know a lot about this case with the attempted murder of Brandon Boudreaux. 2 in chat, if you don't know too much. I'm kind of in the 2 right here. 3, if you've never heard of this at all. I know more about the other murders and then a little bit about Charles Vallow because we saw the body cam, I think a couple years ago. However, for this one, I've heard a little bit about it. I know it involved her, maybe involves her niece, Melanie, because we did hear about Melanie in the last trial just a little bit. And then it was the attempted murder of Brandon Boudreaux. Yeah, I'm a 2 as well. I don't really know too much about it. Yeah, so there's background noise right now. So hopefully they'll realize someone needs to mute their microphone. Someone's out there not muting their microphone, shuffling around. It could be Lori Vallow, but maybe they will tell her to chill out. But at least we can hear Trina loud and clear. Hi, Janie. Janie says there's 3 alternates. There were 4. Maybe it was a typo because someone tweeted that there's only 2 alternates left. So I assume maybe there was another alternate that also had issues that was unable to come in. Or it could be a typo. Okay, taxi's a 1. Prosecution coming in hot. Yep, Trina Kay.
You'll learn that in the back of that Jeep was this defendant's brother, Alex Cox. He had been lying in wait with a rifle for Brandon to return home. This defendant, Lori Vallow Daybell, the woman seated over here, had loaned her Jeep to her brother so he could drive it to Arizona. So he could be in the back of that Jeep with very dark tint that no one could see through and wait for Brandon.
Wait, it's her Jeep? I didn't know that. At least rent a car. When they were trying to when they did murder Dan Markel, remember the 2 guys, they rented the Prius. I mean, still got caught though, but she used her own car. Oh boy.
very dark tint that no one could see through, and wait for Brandon to return home. The goal of this defendant and her co-conspirators? To shoot and kill Brandon Boudreaux. So let's talk about October 2nd and the weeks leading up to that. All of the actions that this defendant did in furtherance of that conspiracy and the premeditated murder of Brandon Boudreaux.
Can't wait to hear about this.
I'm going to start with a little background for you. In June of 2019, Brandon Boudreaux was still married to his then wife, Melanie. You're going to learn that Melanie is this defendant's niece. You're going to learn they were very close. And you're going to learn that they both had it out for Brandon. On June 25th, Brandon and Melanie got into an argument. And Brandon learned that this defendant had told his wife that he was gay, that he had hacked into her computer, and that Brandon was trying to work with her then husband to take her temple recommend away. You're going to learn that many of the people, including Brandon and this defendant, are members of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. And having your temple recommend taken away is a very significant event. You're going to learn and see that Brandon actually texted Lori Vallow on the 25th of June to confront her about these lies, and that she never responded.
Oh, that's a good question. Sherry says, was there any insurance money in this case as well? Since she wasn't married to Charles' beneficiary, was she out for Melanie's? I don't know. Because it seems like a lot of the stuff that we're doing, yes, they're trying to guise it under religious stuff and other crazy beliefs, but at the end of the day, it was just greed. They just wanted the money. Yeah, I don't know. Hey, Brenda.
By July, just a short while later, Brandon and Melanie were seeing a mediator and proceeding through a divorce. You're going to also hear that during this time, Lori Vallow and Alex Cox lived here in Arizona. In fact, Lori lived in Chandler. You're going to hear about an incident that occurred on July 11th of 2019 in Chandler involving Lori Vallow and Alex Cox. The Chandler police were out at this defendant's residence, and they took photographs of some vehicles. One of those vehicles was a 2018 Jeep Wrangler with Texas license plates, LWD 0997. That will be very important to you. They also noted that Alex had his own car, a Ford F-150. Both of those vehicles were in Chandler in July. You're going to learn that in August through September, Lori Vallow and her brother Alex Cox moved up to Rexburg, Idaho, to be closer to this defendant's soon-to-be husband, Chad Daybell. Both of them moved into a complex at 565 Pioneer Road in Rexburg, Idaho. Lori took the Jeep Wrangler and a Nissan Rogue, and Alex brought his Ford F-150. So everyone had their own vehicles. You're going to learn that as the divorce is proceeding between Brandon and his then wife, Melanie, that they put their house up for sale. And Melanie moved out and got a rental property. When their house finally sold, Brandon had to rent a home too. And on September 13th of 2019, he rented a house at 3875 East Phelps Street in Gilbert. Brandon will tell you his plan initially was to stay in his own house almost up to the time of the closing and then move into the rental property. You will see a text message that Melanie asked Brandon for his new address. They had children in common, so he didn't think anything of this. And he sent her the address. That was on September 17th. You'll learn that Melanie Boudreaux, this defendant's niece, was the only person who knew Brandon's address, who knew 3875 East Phelps Street, and who also knew.
Is she seriously representing her again? She is. It's crazy because when she was trying to tell the judge this week that she was too sick to do the jury selection, she was like talking about how she has a right to represent herself. She was crying. And she's like, I did a pretty good job, you know, talking about the previous trial. She's like, I did a good job, Judge. I do a pretty... I'll have to find and give you guys a quote myself. But Lori thinks, yeah, she did a pretty good job last trial.
This defendant and Alex Cox. Brandon barely moved into that house before the shooting. In fact, he'd moved in sooner than he thought because Melanie told him she was going out of town and offered him the kids for an extra weekend. And so he moved in sooner and took the kids while she flew to Rexburg, Idaho on September 26th through the 29th to be with this defendant. So in the weeks leading up to this October 2nd shooting, we'll talk about all of these things that were done in furtherance of this conspiracy, starting with Lori Vallow's Jeep. You'll learn that Alex Cox searched out a place to have extra window tinting put on the Jeep. And I say that because you're going to see the photos from the Jeep in July, and you'll see there's tinting on the windows, but you can still see into it. And so, on September 25th, Alex Cox took that Jeep to Dan's Window Tinting in Rexburg, Idaho, and he paid $200 to put some of the darkest tint you could put on it. You'll see those photos of what that Jeep looked like afterwards. This is the first action of this defendant, Lori Vallow, in the conspiracy, loaning her brother this Jeep and allowing him to put on these dark tint to get it ready so he can lie in wait, and no one could see him in the back with that rifle. It is her first.
That is wild to me. They thought tint was going to be enough for that. It's like, hey, I'm going to still use my own personal car. You can borrow it. Just like tint the shit out of it. Okay. Did I see the video of her and Dumbbell putting Jeep tire in storage and then getting it back out? No, I have not. I haven't seen anything about this case. I just know little details about it, but a lot of this is going to be really new to me and probably to a lot of us here.
First mistake, using that Jeep and tying herself to the conspiracy and to the premeditation. Also on September 25th, you're going to learn that Lori Vallow and her accomplice, Alex Cox, went to the Walmart Superstore in Idaho Falls. You're going to learn that's not far from Rexburg. And they purchased a burner phone. Now, a burner phone is a phone that you don't have to put your subscriber information to. And so, how do we know that Alex Cox was there and Lori Vallow was there? Well, you're going to learn they each have their own cell phone, like most of us do, and that Alex Cox's cell phone was utilizing Wi-Fi inside that Walmart at the time that burner phone was purchased with cash. And you'll learn that this defendant's cell phone that was subscribed to her was utilizing cell towers in the area of that Walmart at the time that that burner phone was purchased.
Oh, you're right. It was Tylee's Jeep. You like this judge? I do. There's a lot of cases where I really like the judges. This is definitely one of them. I heard from another channel that during the jury selection he had, for the record, that Lori's able to talk fine to the jury, but not to him in regards to, her illness. I think I heard some tweets about that. Hi, lady. How are you doing today? Oh, thank you. There's like mushrooms and everything on this shirt. Thank you. Thank you.
Lori Vallow and Alex Cox knew that he would need a phone when he drove down here. But they knew you don't want to bring your own phone. You'll be tracked, right? So they bought this burner phone so that Alex would have contact while he drove down here and away. But Alex made a mistake. Because like any other phone, you can still use a burner phone to access Google or your Gmail accounts. And you're going to learn that Alex accessed his Gmail account. In this investigation, you'll learn the police executed many, many search warrants, and one of them was on Alex Cox's Gmail account, homerjmaximus@gmail.com. You're going to
Homer J. Maximus. Is that from something?
learn that Alex searched for things like window tinting in Rexburg.
I don't know. I'm thinking of like Greek, Roman lore stuff. Maybe The Simpsons.
He searched for places to practice shooting ranges. You're going to learn that he searched different things about angles or trajectories of shots. You're going to learn that the day before, on October 1st and the morning of October 2nd, he searched 3875 East Phelps Street, where Brandon Boudreaux lived. You're going to learn that after the shooting, Alex Cox actually searched for directions on how to get away through a back road. He knew he hadn't killed Brandon. Brandon's calling 911, and so he searched for Pine Top, Holbrook, Moab, Utah, Fillmore, Utah, and eventually Idaho Falls as he made his way back through back roads. You're going to learn that the police also executed search warrants on this defendant's Gmail account.
Right? Homer J. Simpson, right? Okay, I haven't seen The Simpsons in so long. I was thinking like Simpsons and then Maximus, maybe like Gladiator, you know? Italy, and then maybe Romans. Oh gosh, they're just all over the place.
You're going to learn that the police also executed search warrants on this defendant's Gmail account. lollytimeforever@gmail.com.
Oh god, we got to hear about Lolly
On
Time
September
again.
30th, the day when her brother took her Jeep and started driving down to Arizona, she searched, quote, how to get the back seat out of my Jeep Wrangler, And she also searched a YouTube video, Jeep Wrangler JK rear seat removal, how to DIY YouTube video. This defendant continued to be a co-conspirator and to aid her accomplice, Alex Cox, by searching how to remove that back seat of the Jeep so he could better lie in wait to shoot Brandon. This was the defendant's second mistake, and more evidence of her being a co-conspirator and the premeditation. This defendant also, on September 30th, began aiding Alex by becoming his alibi. You'll hear from Nick Valance, who is an FBI agent who deals with cellular analysis.
Nick Valance. I can't wait to hear his testimony. So he, I think, is the same FBI agent who's also in the Koberger case as well. Remember how Koberger's defense team said that the cell phone tower stuff, the analysts and all that, there was something shady about it, and they were going to question Nick Valance and the law enforcement sometimes in the future. Now, they made it so in this trial that Agent Nicholas Valance, if he testifies, or I think he's going to testify, they're going to just only show, or not show, they're only going to have his voice testifying, and you won't actually get to see his face or anything like that because he might be involved in like undercover stuff in other cases. But I am very excited to hear his testimony because I want to know, does he sound like someone who is smart? Does he sound like he knows what he's doing? You know, or does he sound a little wishy-washy, a little bit shady? Because he's going to be testifying in the Koberger case. And I'm assuming it's the same one.
At around 4:30 p.m. on September 30th, Alex Cox's cell phone, the one that he subscribed to, moved from his apartment in this same complex where he and Lori Vallow lived to Lori Vallow's unit. And from them on for the next couple days, Alex Cox's phone remained with this defendant. Meanwhile, that burner phone from that Idaho Falls Walmart on September 30th started moving towards Arizona. You will hear that on October 2nd of 2019, at about 8 in the morning Arizona time, about an hour before the shooting, this defendant created the alibi. She had Alex Cox's phone call her phone to make it look like he was still in Rexburg, Idaho, instead of in Gilbert, Arizona. That fake call lasted about 24 minutes. Both of those cell phones were using the same cell tower in Rexburg, Idaho. This was Lori Vallow's third mistake. More evidence that she was a co-conspirator and of that premeditation to aid her brother in this shooting of Brandon Boudreaux. So how do we know, though, that Lori Vallow's Jeep drove from Idaho to Arizona? Well, we're going to start by learning about what we call LPRs, or license plate readers.
Oh, did they take the toll roads? Oh my goodness, these people. They probably thought they were so smart, scheming and everything. Did Ruby Franke ever get sentenced? If so, how long? If I remember correctly, wasn't it between 2 to 20 years? Or is it 2 to 40 years? I don't remember. However, the sentencing judge just gives like the time frame, and then it's the actual probation office. They're the ones that will figure out when they're actually going to what they're actually going to give her. I don't think it's something they tell her right away. I don't know if it's like as you're serving, they might be like, okay, well, let's see how you're doing. Have you changed? Do you think we could release you to society? Should we let you out? Oh, no, you haven't? Okay, we'll keep you in for another couple years. I don't know how it works there, but it is very odd. Yeah, because we only got a sentencing time frame from the judge at sentencing, but it's the probation office or whatever they're called. They're the ones that determine how long she's going to really serve.
You will learn and see a photo of Lori Vallow's Jeep in Arizona on October 1st of 2019 up near Holbrook on the I-40. You'll hear that the DEA has a license plate reader there, and they took a photo of Lori Vallow's Jeep with that license plate LWD 0997 on its way to Gilbert, Arizona. You're also going to learn that the police later recovered that Jeep back up in Rexburg, and they did a couple different search warrants on it. And what they recovered inside the Jeep, among other things, was a receipt from October 1st of 2019 from Mesa, Arizona, the day before the shooting.
Oh, no.
From a restaurant called Los Favoritos out on Power Road. You're going to learn that at the time the burner phone is down here in Arizona. You'll learn that Alex Cox was using his Gmail and Googling an address on Power Road around the time when we then see the receipt. Alex Cox, Lori Vallow's Jeep, and Alex's rifle are here in Arizona waiting to commit this shooting. Meanwhile, up in Rexburg, on October 1st, this defendant does a little more additional help. She goes to a storage unit in Rexburg, Idaho, and rents unit C52. The next day, on October 2nd, when the shooting is happening down in Arizona, or after the shooting actually, she brings her soon-to-be husband, Chad Daybell, with her. And you will see video of this as she and Chad Daybell put the rear tire and the rear bench seat of that Jeep into the storage unit.
Oh, cool. Yeah, I want to see. He's got long arms and teeth in his belly. Ooh, I like it. Sounds creepy. She could get on 4 years. Was that what it was? Yeah, I remember. Okay, so it was like 4 years to 20 to 40 years or something like that. Thanks, guys. You guys are always here to correct me. All right, so Lori Vallow.
Using the storage unit for that Jeep tire and that bench seat so that her co-conspirator, Alex, could lie in wait in the back of the Jeep, waiting for Brandon to return home that morning. This is, again, evidence of that conspiracy and of the premeditation to kill Brandon. So October 2nd, the morning of this shooting, you will see that Alex Cox was Googling that address, 3875 East Falls Road. His burner phone from Idaho Falls, Idaho, is in Gilbert, Arizona. He's using his Gmail account, and he is using cell towers around Melanie Boudreaux's residence. Now, this is important because Melanie knew that Brandon had their kids. They had 4. She knew that Brandon, that
They had 4 kids? Oh, I had no idea. I didn't know they had any kids. From my understanding, I don't think Melanie Boudreaux is going to be called to the stand because they posted their witness list a couple weeks ago. I didn't see Melanie on there. And I was looking for, I think maybe there was another Melanie, but you guys said that was Lori Vallow's like former friend or something like that. But I don't think she's going to be testifying in this trial. Interesting, huh? Wonder what she's up to now. You think she's watching this right now?
morning was going to have to drop off 3 of the kids at school and that they would exchange their youngest. They would meet at a park. Brandon would text Melanie, let her know he was there. She would respond, and they would exchange their youngest child. While Brandon was leaving his house to take his kids to school, that Idaho burner phone moves to his residence and begins waiting for him. Alex kept the Jeep running as he waited for Brandon to return. What Melanie didn't know was that Brandon was going to the gym after dropping off the kids, and so Alex had to wait longer. You'll hear that one of Brandon's neighbors noticed this Jeep. It's a neighborhood that doesn't have any real easy ingress or egress. You'll see a map of it, so there's very little through traffic. And so the neighborhood knows and recognizes most of the same cars. And you'll hear from a neighbor that as he was backing out, he saw this Jeep parked the wrong way on the road, nose to nose with another vehicle that he did recognize. He saw the dark tinting. He saw it was running, and he thought it just stood out as unusual in his neighborhood. It made him actually look into his rearview mirror to note it had a Texas license plate. This was about 30 plus minutes before Brandon arrived home. When Brandon got to the house that day, Alex was ready with the rifle. And we know that he was able to just lift up that back window because the tire wasn't on it. Alex fired one shot. Luckily, he did not hit Brandon. You will see that Brandon was driving a Tesla at the time. And unlike many cars, there's no frame around the window.
Oh, I wonder if his Tesla recorded the event. I don't know if getting shot at by gunfire is going to trigger it. Maybe. Because I know if there's like a car that's coming at you, and then if you honk, the Tesla will record the events like a couple seconds before and afterwards. But if your car was shot at, I don't know if that would trigger the recording event. That'd be kind of cool if there's cameras to record that.
The window just goes into the door, into the car itself. The shot hit the frame of the vehicle, but right where the window goes up into it. And you'll see that there is damage to the window, as well as the bullet hole into the frame of the vehicle itself, right above Brandon's head when he was sitting in that driver's seat.
Hey,
You'll hear that when Brandon took off, the window remained in the door, that he drove away and then eventually circled back around and went into his driveway. You'll hear that for a Tesla, when you put the car in park, the door automatically opens and the whole window just shattered out. Brandon was on the phone with 911 soon after the shooting.
I don't know if that is true. When you put the car in park, the door automatically opens. I think there has to be another step or a couple steps before that.
You'll hear that call, him actually sounding out of breath from the fear. And he waited for the police to arrive. Alex Cox, of course, is Googling how to get out of there and get back to Rexburg, Idaho. And by October 3rd, he was back there. That same day on October 3rd, you will see that Alex Cox and Lori Vallow went back to the storage unit. They removed that rear tire. They removed the rear seat of the Jeep and took it with them. You will again see video of that. You'll also see that they Googled that day, news in Gilbert, shootings of Brandon, to try to find out what the police knew. How did the police figure out that this defendant and Alex Cox were involved?
Oh, yeah.
Well, when the police were interviewing Brandon, they asked him if he had any enemies. Who would want to do this? And Brandon told the police the only people he could think of was Lori Vallow and Alex Cox. He told them that Lori had lived in Texas and that the Jeep had a Texas license plate.
Oh, no.
And he told them about that incident on July 11th of 2019 in Chandler involving Lori Vallow and Alex Cox. And he believed this was all tied together. You'll hear that the Gilbert police reached out to the Chandler Police Department and learned about that Jeep with the Texas plates, LWD 0997, the same plate that was seen on that license plate reader on October 1st coming into Arizona. The Gilbert police learned that Lori Vallow and Alex Cox were living in Rexburg, Idaho, and they reached out to law enforcement there. You'll hear that on November 1st, police in Idaho went to 565 Pioneer Road, that apartment complex, and they saw Lori Vallow. They saw.
At this time, though, I don't think the family members knew that Tylee and JJ were missing, right? I think it took a little bit for the kids to. I think like family members were wondering where they were, but I don't think it became a huge deal and reported to the media until was it like December? I think. Do you guys remember that? Do you guys remember the timeline? So at this point, Charles Vallow is like definitely dead. So Brandon probably thinks, oh, maybe I'm next. Lori must have killed Charles. But I don't know if anyone knew about the kids. Yeah, I heard of, I think, putting your car in park and then maybe the auto unlock. Actually, I would hate that. I wouldn't want my door to auto unlock or to open if you were to put it in park. I don't remember, actually. I got to sit in a car and feel it out. But I know for Teslas, there is a feature where if you put your car in park, there is a button on your screen where your doors can open automatically. But I've never had my doors open before. I would hate that.
Saw Alex Cox and they saw Chad Daybell. They didn't see the Jeep that day. And so they went back a few days later on November 4th and saw the Jeep located near Lori Vallow's residence. Tires back on it, rear seat is back in it. You'll hear that they impounded it. And on November 18th, the Gilbert police flew to Idaho to process it. You're going to learn about GSR, or gunshot residue. You're going to learn that they process the vehicle. Basically, they're little sticky kits. GSR is microscopic. You can't see it. So you try to collect it, and then you give it to an expert to look through it. You will hear that those kits were sent to the Phoenix Police Department and reviewed, and that particles indicative of gunshot residue were located on the kits that were tested from the rear of that Jeep Wrangler, and that this is consistent with a gun being fired from the rear of the Jeep. You also hear that the Gilbert Police Department collected DNA from areas like the steering wheel, the gear shift, seatbelt buckles, and that they got a blood blot from Alexander Cox. DNA profiles were created from the steering wheel and other areas around the driver's seat. And the DNA was found to be a mixture of multiple people, but the major contributor was Alexander Cox. Again, you will hear that the police executed multiple search warrants on cell phones, cell tower usage, data from Gmail accounts, and data from iCloud accounts. You will see a map of Lori Vallow's cell phone Alex Cox's cell phone, as well as that burner phone from that Walmart in Idaho Falls, the one that was associated to Alex Cox's Gmail account. You will hear from Nick Valance from the FBI, and he'll show you how that burner phone went from Rexburg, Idaho, down to Gilbert, Arizona, was there for the shooting, and returned back to Rexburg, and was never used again after that. You will learn that the only phone number that that burner phone called or received calls from was Chad Daybell, this defendant's soon-to-be husband. The same phone, of course, that was using those cell towers right around Brandon's home at the time of the shooting. This defendant, Lori Vallow Daybell, has been charged with conspiracy to commit the first-degree murder of Brandon Boudreaux on October 2nd of 2019. The evidence in this case will prove to you beyond a reasonable doubt that this defendant conspired with Alex Cox and others to kill Brandon. She provided the means, the Jeep, she helped get the Jeep ready, and she tried to provide an alibi for her co-conspirator. At the end of this trial, the state will ask you all to hold this defendant accountable and find her guilty of conspiracy to commit first-degree murder. Thank you.
I love it. Nice and simple, straight to the point, no bullshit. We don't need to stretch the facts out, just straight to the fucking point. I like the way that she does things. But now we got Lori. Oh boy. All right, guys. Lori Vallow's going to give her opening statement. Let's see if she sounds sick. Let's see if she feels better. And let's see if she has a quirk where she'll repeat a phrase over and over again to try to get the point over to the jury. Oh, you know what I did hear, though? There was a jury who was in Lori Vallow's previous trial from a month ago. They're actually attending this trial. So they're like, this is crazy. Like, after I learned so much about Lori Vallow, like, damn, and she's got another trial going on. Whew. Good morning.
Would the defense like to give an opening statement at this time?
Oh, Judge. Judge, why is your microphone so loud, Judge? Oh, boy. Oh, God. Mr. Judge. Here comes Lori. She looks fine. Smiling.
Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, here we are at trial. And the judicial system can be difficult to understand at times. There are laws and rules and statutes that govern how things will proceed in this trial. You yesterday got to hear the preliminary jury instruction, so you kind of got an order of how things are going to go. In order for someone to be charged with a crime, as I have been...
Your Honor, I'm going to object to argument versus an opening statement.
I'll remind the defendant, an opening statement should be a preview of what is to be expected at trial. So go ahead.
That law enforcement presents evidence that they gather, and the state prosecutors are going to present that to you. Sometimes the state charges the defendant with a crime. They have charged me with a crime, a very serious crime. Sometimes they take the allegations to a grand jury to decide if the defendant should be charged.
I'm going to object again, Your Honor. Improper argument. Asked to strike.
Hold on. The jury should disregard that last comment. How the charges arrived here are not for the jury's consideration. The prior proceedings are not for the jury's consideration. Please proceed.
The state or the prosecution
How many objections are we going to get? We already have 2 so far.
will then take the information gathered, the evidence from law enforcement, and present to you a story, a theory, their hypothesis of what happened. In this case, the prosecutor was not present during this alleged crime. The Gilbert Police Department was not present during this alleged crime. So it is their job to fill in the gaps.
I'm laughing because when people were testifying the last trial, she was like, well, were you there? Did you actually see my husband get hit, get shot? Did you actually see me there? Did you know what happened? It's like, no, but we looked at the evidence and put it together. So you weren't there. No, clearly not. Seems like we're going to take that same route.
Make up a theory and present it to you, the jury at trial. Their job to fill in the gaps. Make up a theory and present it to you, the jury at trial. This is their job. They are not witness to the actual events because they weren't there that day with Brandon at the house when this alleged shooting occurred.
Oh boy.
This case is about a conspiracy. And a conspiracy is when 2 or more people make an agreement to commit a crime. They have to willingly and knowingly participate. Conspiracy is an ancient word that appears in the Bible on many occasions. Judas conspired against Jesus with the chief priest for
I'm gonna
30 pieces of silver.
Object to, unless this was being presented at trial, I'm not sure that this is appropriate opening.
What is the legal objection?
Well, you're arguing. The opening statement is not argument. I'm going to allow it briefly, but I may cut you off depending on where you're going with that.
Cain conspired against Abel, his brother. This case is a case of conspiracy. The charge against me is that I conspired with my brother, Alex Cox, to murder my niece's husband, Brandon Boudreaux. But you will find, as you begin to see the evidence put forth in this case, that there was not any animosity between Brandon and myself. I personally did not have any motivation to have harm come to Brandon. In fact, Brandon and I had a very friendly relationship all of the time that I have known him. I first met Brandon when he was marrying my niece, Melanie.
And Your Honor, I'm going to object to, unless the defendant's
Hold
testifying.
on. Can I have the parties approach briefly? Can I have you approach briefly?
Yeah, she's kind of testifying there. Because here's the issue with her testifying. She was doing the same thing also when she was questioning the witnesses last trial. The issue is that if she's testifying, well, Trina can't cross-examine Lori on that. Lori needs to be testifying on the fucking stand. That way Trina can cross-examine her. But look at her. She's like trying to like get her testimony in without testifying. Sneaky, sneaky. I can't wait to get the sidebars. We need to get sidebar transcripts. Lori's
ahead.
smiling.
I first met Brandon when he was marrying my niece, Melanie. Melanie and I are very close because my sister, her mother, passed away when she was just 9 years old. So Melanie and I think of each other and love each other like a mother and daughter, even though we are aunt and niece. So our families remained close, Melanie and Brandon's family and my family. And in each other's lives, like everyday lives. We spent holidays together and shared in everyday life. I was there for Melanie and Brandon's wedding and for the birth of all 4 of their children. I was also very close to all 4 of their children. In this case, you will hear Brandon himself tell you that someone shot a gun at his car. You will learn in this testimony that Brandon was not hurt. You will learn that he wasn't even sure what had happened. But you will hear that Brandon immediately blamed me.
Why would Brandon immediately blame you if you guys had a good relationship, right? Also, what's the relationship like with the 4 kids? Must be kind of awkward if Lori gets convicted for this and the kids find out and was like, hey, wait a second, Mom, were you involved in this in any way? What happened? Oof, really, yeah. Yikes in the family.
Which begs the question. You will learn that he wasn't even sure what had happened. But you will hear that Brandon immediately blamed me. Which begs the question, was I an enemy to Brandon? That is news to me, and hopefully by the end of this trial, we will all have some answers to that question.
Will we?
In this case, you will learn that Brandon had called 911, and Gilbert Police did respond. You will learn that Brandon speaks of a puke green Jeep, and then he offers the officers a camo green color that he's speaking of on his phone. He says a green Jeep. Then you will hear the neighbor who says that it was a dark blue Jeep that was parked in front of the neighbor's house. You will learn that Brandon very quickly hired a private investigator to find out where I was living out of the state of Arizona so he could inform the police. You will see Brandon exchange email information with Detective Pillar, the case agent in this case, about my whereabouts and about the financial dealings of my niece, Melanie Boudreaux. You will learn that Brandon was not particularly satisfied with the investigation that Gilbert Police was conducting, so he did his own investigation, hiring his own private investigator to follow his wife, Melanie Boudreaux. You will find out that Brandon had access to the VIN number of a Jeep and gave it to the police. You will find out that after that event, he quickly changed his story from a camo green Jeep to a gray Jeep. You will then learn that Brandon continued to provide information he was personally finding out to Detective Pillar, the case agent in this case. You will learn that Detective Pillar and Brandon discussed through email how they can demonstrate Melanie's financial gain if Brandon were to have died around October 2nd, 2019. This is what a conspiracy looks like. 2 people trying to set up another person for a crime. My niece, Melanie Boudreaux, is named by the state as a co-conspirator. However, she has not been charged with the crime.
I'm going to object
but
and
I
have that
have.
struck as well, Your Honor.
I liked how she kept on talking. Oh, sneaky Lori.
You should disregard that statement. You're going to receive an instruction later that all persons that may be involved would not necessarily be charged or called as witnesses, and you'll follow those instructions later. Go ahead.
Yeah, whatever happened with Melanie? I'm so curious. Did they just not find anything on Melanie?
I was not living in Arizona at the time this alleged incident happened on October 2nd, 2019. I was not even aware such an event had taken place. I did have a close relationship with my brother Alex, but I was not aware of his every move. Melanie also had a close relationship with Alex, but also was not aware of his location at all times. Brandon and Alex also had a good relationship until this accusation. They saw each other frequently at all of our family parties and get-togethers and would often be seen laughing and talking. Alex was a comedian who kept our family laughing. Alex passed away in December 2019 of natural causes, so he is not here to defend himself.
And I'm going to object again to that as well, since he's not party to this. He's
All
not
right,
here.
I'll just remind the jury that what is said in opening statements is not evidence. It's not sworn testimony. Please proceed.
Now, some people are like, did he really die of natural causes? I know some people out there are kind of like raising their eyebrows a little bit.
Although the state has alleged that there are several co-conspirators in this case, I am the only one being charged with a crime. So you will be the judge. You will hear and see evidence presented by the state. The state has, according to the law, 100% burden to prove to you
I'm
that
going
a
to object to misstatement
crime-
of the law in terms of 100%.
All right. Again, this is a little bit bordering on argument, but the jury will receive the instructions on what is and what is not proof beyond a reasonable doubt.
the state has the burden to prove that a crime has been committed here and that I committed that crime. That is the way the law is written. I do not have to show any evidence or put up a defense. I do not have to testify. That is the law. The prosecutors from the state have to prove to you that I conspired, meaning made an agreement with my brother to murder Brandon. So you will decide. Right now, according to the law, I am innocent. I remain innocent until the state of Arizona and its prosecutors show you enough evidence to convince you that I had anything to do with this alleged crime. And I want you to look carefully and determine if this event was a crime at all. Did a shooting actually occur? Only Brandon claims that it did. Only Brandon names me and Alex. You will learn that Brandon himself did own a gun. You will learn that Brandon knew how to shoot his gun. You will learn that Brandon and Melanie were going through a divorce. And you will learn that even though Brandon is the one who actually filed for a divorce, he was blaming me for his divorce. You will learn that the information that the Gilbert Police Department and Detective Pillar, the case agent on this case, learned about me and my brother Alex was from Brandon Boudreaux. You will learn that Brandon and Detective Pillar communicated frequently and were on a first-name basis. I want you to look closely at the motivation of Brandon and the Gilbert Police Department, because I'm the only one charged with the crime, and I need you to decipher what really happened here, because I'm the only one who's being asked to pay a consequence for this
And
crime.
again, Your Honor, I'm going to ask to object and strike that.
Sustained, the jury in their instructions received an instruction that said the jury is not to consider a penalty. That will be in the final instructions area as well. The jury's job is to determine whether or not the state has proved the case beyond a reasonable doubt or the charge beyond a reasonable doubt. Go ahead, proceed.
You will hear many references during this trial about the state versus Lori Daybell. Well, who is the state? The state are the prosecutors.
I object to argument and relevance.
Sustained.
And you, the jury, are brought in to stand between the state and me.
And I'm going to object again to improper statement of the law, argument and relevance.
Sustained.
You are here to say if a crime has even been committed at all. You are here to say if I committed this very crime and if the state proved this to you beyond a reasonable doubt. If at the end of this trial you have reasonable doubt, then I remain innocent. If the state does not prove to you that I, 1, committed a crime, and 2, committed this crime, then I remain innocent. In this case, you will hear a lot of speculation. The definition of speculation is an idea or guess about something that is not known. During this trial, the state will try to convince you that I committed this crime by using speculation, innuendo, and insinuation. And the state is hoping that this will be enough. In this trial, you will in fact witness a power struggle between the state and the defendant
Your Honor,
for
I'm
what
gonna
a fact
object to
really
argument.
is.
Sustained.
Because they want to convince you, the jury, that a fact is speculation, that a fact is innuendo, that a fact is insinuation, that they knew what I was thinking, what I was feeling, what I was planning, when they don't know it all. You, the jury, have all the power to decide what the facts are and what they're not. Not the state, not the judge, not law enforcement, you. So I implore you to listen carefully and decide for yourselves if the state's theory really makes logical sense. What motivation did I have? What malice have I ever shown to anyone? What benefit would I gain? I am a person who loves all people and has no malice towards anyone.
You know, I have a feeling Trina K is going to lay it all out for the jury. Like I said, I don't know too much about this particular case, but no malice towards anyone. None towards Charles, none towards her kids, none towards Tammy Daybell. Really, Lori?
Not even the prosecutors who wrongfully try to convict me.
Or the judge? Or the judge? So when she's getting objections, she's doing a really good job at keeping cool, calm, and collected. However, we have seen her how she is outside of a jury presence when she's arguing with the judge, when she's not getting what she wants. This is like a different Lori that she's displaying to the judge, to the jury.
Your Honor, I'm going to object again to relevance and to argument.
Sustained.
I am all about spreading love and will continue to do so, even after this trial is complete, no matter the result. Thank you.
All right, the state can call its first witness.
Yeah, she's going to be spreading love no matter the results because either way, she's already fucked because of Idaho.